we're live. We're not live yet. We're not live yet.
Uh,
We're not
water
live.
time.
We'll probably be live in like 2 seconds.
Out of the Selena cup. This is all Tejana love right here, dude. She's from Texas. She's from Corpus Christi.
Yeah.
She's our Marilyn Monroe, you know.
Well, you know, Selena's beloved all throughout the country, but I did sense there's a little extra
Matt,
extra love in Texas. Yeah.
ask me a couple. Maybe if we can, if there's space, a couple of maybe people that have influenced me in my journey. I could throw in some. That would be my endorsements, really. I don't really want to like have a list at the end or anything.
Okay.
I just want to like squeeze them in there.
Okay. Okay. We're going live.
Okay.
All right. We're joined live this hour by. Lilliana.
Okay, I'm gonna lock these guys out.
Okay. Ramirez Vidaurre, and she's gonna share with us her journey, how she became both Miss Plus Miss Plus World Rio Grande, as well as Miss Plus Humanitarian Ambassador. It's going to be interesting hour. So why don't you tell us, Lilliana, how did your journey begin towards being Miss Plus World Rio Grande?
Well, I'm preparing in August for my 40th birthday. And I always use that as my time grid because I remember being 29 years old and I was getting, very close to my 30th birthday. And I had always struggled with weight issues. I was a 12-year-old girl who used to hide in the bathroom stalls and was very shy because of her weight, because she got bullied. And I'm talking about myself in a third person, but I'd hide in bathroom stalls because I was embarrassed, and I was a big kid, and fashion wasn't easy to come by at that size and at that height. Only girls who were that size would understand at 12 years old how, dude, you're still like 4 feet tall, 4.5 feet tall, and you're wearing like women's plus sizes. So it was hilarious, dude. I was like, I can joke about it now, but I was like the ugliest duckling, dude. Like, and so I was bullied in school a little bit, and I was a shy girl, always a shy girl. So at 29, my father had just passed away, and I was looking through photos to see if I could find photos of him and I, and there weren't that many together. And I thought, why is that? And I started to dig a little deeper about, how I felt about myself. And I discovered that I didn't really feel like I was beautiful because of my weight, and every woman, I mean, people can always say, well, beauty is skin deep. And, if you've got the brains, that's beautiful. You don't need anything else. Or if you can, but it's truly empowering for a woman to feel truly beautiful, like to be able to sit in front of a mirror and look at herself in the mirror and go, man, I'm a looker, no matter what she looks like. It's like we all have our beautiful features. Some of us have beautiful shaped eyes, some of us have the most beautiful lips on our face, skin, hair, everyone's got something. And yes, we've got good personalities, that's beautiful. We've got some knowledge, that's beautiful. But I wanted to feel like that kind of beautiful. I wanted to know what it felt like to feel like Marilyn Monroe felt. Like I wanted to know what it felt like to be, that kind of beautiful, to walk into a room and have people turn around and go, whoa, who's that? And that's, I don't, I've learned a lot through my journey. When I learned that that's what I wanted to feel, I also learned that there were a lot of people that were going to be judgy about that journey, because they're going, that's very vain, that's very vain to want to feel that. But, I think that it's important that women do hold some of that feeling, because there's nothing like that empowerment of a woman sitting in front of a mirror and going, I am beautiful inside and out, you know? So at 29, I started trying to figure out how I was going to celebrate my 30th birthday. And I dug deep, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to feel that on my 30th. And I put a photo shoot together, and it took me a few months, but I wanted this very classic, very timeless scene. And I put the costumes together, and a friend of mine lent me his furniture store after hours, and he had these beautiful reproductions of, like, just vintage looking furniture, gorgeous stuff. And he said, you could borrow, all this furniture after hours. So I went in there and I did this and I planned the whole thing out. And it was just a full blown top of the line photo shoot. And after that, I was just so inspired by the whole thing. I could still say that I don't have complete knowledge and crazy knowledge on fashion. People think that because I've been a fashion model for the last 10 years, that it means that I know a whole lot about it. I'll be honest, in the plus size industry, it was very hard for a very long time to be stylish and plus size. We've come a long ways. There are wonderful designers now who are embracing women of all sizes and not just making size 0 size dresses, but size 0 through shoot 26. But when I was a kid at 12, there was no plus size for a 12-year-old. I wasn't supposed to be that size. And I felt out of place. I felt different. I felt a little embarrassed, So it took me a long time to love what I look like this way. And I decided that, shoot, man, I had already been sick for quite a bit of years with bulimia and 15 on. And I was 29 years old and still bulimic. I was still having bulimic episodes. I'm honest about my journey because I think it helps people connect and go, shoot, okay, she said she was bulimic at 15 and she's 39 now. And if things are kind of rough and I'm having I can still have episodes like anything else, like an alcoholic who's been off the bottle for 2 years and then one day has, something, and then they fall back, they relapse, So I'm honest, try to be as honest as I can about my journey, because I know that's going to help women relate who might be going through the same thing. But yeah, my journey as it's gone was not really planned, and it's still not really planned. I started with fashion. A few years in, I was really enjoying it, meeting a lot of people in the fashion industry who were allowing me to walk the runway with a bunch of girls who were much smaller than I, but I was just like, dude, I belong there too. Why not? Like, I'm larger, but I'm still a beautiful woman, and it took me a lot to believe that too, because it was like, you have a lot of skeptical people going, dude, but what if you just lose the weight and then you can be beautiful that way too? And it's like, I love to cook. I love food. I love cuisine. I love to cook. I would rather sacrifice not having the size 6, physique, because I just can't hold it, and just enjoying food and culture that way. I love to cook, so I got into fashion, and I was in fashion for a while, and then people started telling me, hey, you can make some money doing art modeling too. And I knew that art modeling required study of the human figure, and study of the human figure means you bear it all. And at first I wasn't ready for that. I was like, I'm still learning to love this big body in girdle, this big body and a little bit of Photoshop magic for fashion, and it was it took me a while to be comfortable in my skin enough to just show all my skin and share it with like college art students, you know. So I would go into college art rooms, you know, and model. So, you know, then I started with art, and then I'm going with fashion. I'm going back and forth with art and fashion, and and maybe what, three years ago, um, I got scouted out by a lady who was putting a pageant system together called Miss Plus World. And Miss Nanette Watts, my pageant mother, she has, I mean, you know, a lot of years in pageant experience. And she was in Miss America, when she, I think, you know, was in her 20s. But she has, you know, many years under her belt, and she was scouting out girls to represent Miss Plus World. So she scouted me out and she said, "Hey, I think you're beautiful, and I've been following you on Facebook, and I'm looking for I'm looking for you to maybe join my pageant system." And I said, "Well, you know what? I've never been in pageants. I don't know half of, you know, all of this." And she said, "I still want you to come out and represent, you know, your region, because I like your style. You're very honest about things." And that's kind of what she was looking for in girls. She was looking for women to represent their region, wherever they came from, and be like completely honest. Like, it's crazy, dude. Like, when she said pageantry, I thought, I Googled, and it was like, what is it, Tutu and Tiaras is coming up, or all these like reality, you know. And I was thinking, I'm gonna have to learn how to cross my legs, and that's kind of hard because I'm a big girl, and I can cross them for a little while, but after a while I get tired and I just go, you know. And that's just me, you know. And I was going, man, that's a lot of pressure. And for a while I was just, she would message me and I would say, you know, I'll look into it later, but I don't think it's my thing. And so one day she's just like, you know, it's coming close. You know, we're like 6 months away from an international pageant. She said, um, come on. And I was like, well, what are the entry fees? And when I found out, I was like, dude, where am I going to come up with like $1,400 entry fees in the next few months and get my, you know, costume and my dress and everything? And I was like, all right. So I posted on Facebook, and I had followers, ladies from, you know, the fashion, you know, that had been following me and stuff like that through fashion, could connect. And I go, if I decided to join Miss Plus World and it's only like 4 months away, would you guys support me in this journey too? And they were like, yeah, do it, do it. We'll help you out. So I got this t-shirt design, an artist, a local artist, lent me um, his art design, and it was a real simple art design, but it was really cool. It was a woman rolling tortillas on her on her on her, you know, she was on her how do you, handstand. She was doing a handstand, and she's got a crown on, right? So I start selling these shirts, and I have like a few months to raise entry fees and buy like a formal dress. And then, dude, the blessings just started flowing in. Like, people were buying the t-shirts. I was able to pay for the entry fees like this. Um, my dear friend, and like, she's become like a sister to me. Fashion designer Jennifer Andu, that I had been working with for as a model representing her line. Dude, she was just like, let's go get the material, I'm gonna make your formal. And like, all these people were just like jumping in, lending me my national costume. I was like, what the heck am I gonna do? It's an international costume. Like, how do I, you know, I'm looking at Google pictures of these big international pageants, and they've got these giant headpieces. And I mean, these ladies are coming down from South Africa, the Philippines, we had Finland, Switzerland, and they were coming legit from up there. And I was going, you know, this is big, you know. So it was crazy. Like the blessings just started flowing in. Everybody's like putting things on me. I went out there. World Plus is another store that I had been representing for many years, Ingrid Matias. And she sent me with a suitcase full of dresses, things that I could wear for different occasions there. It was a 4-day event. We had it in Houston, Texas. And it was just like, dude, everything that I thought I was going to experience was not what I experienced at all. It was like, I thought these ladies were all going to be like fighting for this title and be all like putting metamute, just doing like, just being mean and stuff. And I thought we were all going to be real competitive and catty. And then I got there and I met these ladies and I was like, whoa, like these are not just ladies I'm competing on stage for that world crown. These are ladies who are like my sisters, because we can sit here and we can be real about everything, dude, like the way we got here, why we represent the woman that's not, what Barbie said they were supposed to look like. It was like, we are Barbies and we're this size. And I mean, it's like Miss Philippines, my sister, she's going back to compete for the world crown in February. She told me a story about how, growing up with a Filipino community and her being a big girl was like, dude, she always felt like, I mean, grown-ups, people who knew better would say, if you lost some weight, you're a little too big. The men in her community, her Philippine, it was hard for her to date in her own race because beauty was supposed to be tiny, tiny woman. So, she talked about how she sometimes dated out of her race because she didn't feel like her race accepted her for her size. So we shared stories like that together and we became instant sisters, and we still are. And I was like blown away. I was like, okay, I fought this a little bit. It took me that long to join them and I wasn't sure, and it took some convincing. But once I was there, I was like, best thing I ever did in my life, becoming part of this union, this system. And I've just gotten lucky that when I went back as Miss Rio Grande for the second year, um, and I went on my interview, it was a 3-minute interview. And you could see like right now that I like don't shut up. Like you haven't even asked me the second question and I've already, but our interview was 3 minutes long, dude. And there were 3 judges, and each judge was supposed to ask me a question, and I was supposed to answer it like within those 3 or 5 minutes, right? Well, they asked me that second question, and they said, "Tell me a little bit about El Rio Grande and the people from El Rio Grande." And dude, I just like, and then the timer went off, and they were like, "Oh man, she never stopped." But the third guy on the judge's chair said, "Hey, can I just ask her one question? I know the timer's up, but can I just ask her one question?" And he said, "You love where you come from, don't you?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And that was all. I walked out of the interview room. The next night, we got back on stage. We wore our costumes, our international costumes representing me, El Rio Grande, and everybody else with their gorgeous, elaborate costumes. And we wore evening gowns, and we had to do all kinds of choreography. And I sucked at it because I'm not like, I have 2 left feet, or what do they say? You have 2 left feet, and you just kind of, and so my scores were probably like at the bottom when it came to like performing, because it was like we did a skit where we all danced, and I was just like, man, I can't get this choreography stuff, but I was still, and at the end I thought, man, I didn't get this world crown. I was like, damn it, maybe, with more practice. So we're up on stage, and then they had already crowned the world crown. And then my pageant mother comes up with a crown and she says, this is, and she starts crowning the humanitarian ambassadors. And I was just like, dude, I was frozen. I was like, what is this going to mean for me? Like, what is wearing this crown for the next year going to mean? How do I represent this title? So, it was interesting coming home and reflecting on it and going, okay, I have a whole year to represent them as humanitarian ambassador. What does that mean? It's not just representing El Rio Grande anymore. It's representing humanity, right? It's like, it's representing everybody, So it's been interesting. It's been interesting filling that role and learning what it is for me to be that, because I know that, when they crown the next one, she might have a different idea of what it means to be that for her, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanna ask a question,
Yes.
because you were talking about, and I want to ask you about, you traveling around the Rio Grande. I want to get into some of your responsibilities that you took on as Miss Plus World Rio Grande. But I also want to ask, from your earlier part of your you telling us your story. um you mentioned a lot of like individual haters and naysayers and people doubters and just people, just
And they're
saying
everywhere.
just nasty people.
Everywhere.
Yeah,
They're in every pocket of the every circle has them.
yeah.
It's like you can't escape it.
Right, right. But there's
But
also kind of a beauty standard industry. So it's not just these individual people. I mean, there's
no,
billboards, there's magazines, so there's something
it's
informing them. Like,
everywhere. Yeah.
can you talk a little about that? Talk about like not just the little picture, the individual, little haters, but like the big
It's a
world.
big picture. I mean, you
Yeah, the
think
big picture.
about it and it's like, where the heck did it come from? It's like, I mean, like I talk about it now because it's like, it's taken me years to like be honest and upfront, but it's like growing up, um, uh, uh, the way to describe like a beautiful woman was saying like that she was real petite, that when somebody was petite and dainty or exquisita, they use that word exquisita in our culture. It's like meaning beautiful. And I wasn't exquisita, dude. I was cachetoncita, I was gordita, I was all these things. So it's like, it's just, it's a learned thing to believe that, like, it's like everywhere you go, if you try to be just as bonita as those beautiful starlit women, and you're still wearing a bigger size, and you're bigger, dude. Like, I have seen what I look like next to, I've done bridal. It took me years, but I finally got into bridal. It's like they were doing these beautiful trunk shows where people, dude, would pay $200-300 for a seat to sit there and watch girls come out in bridal, right? And I was thinking, but why the heck don't they have bigger girls in there too? I mean, bigger girls get married too, right? We wear white dresses when we get married. And it took a little while of convincing. And I'll be honest, I'd go, hey, every time I would see her at a fashion show, I'd bring it up, and I won't bring that name up, but she was wonderful after she embraced me. But I got to be part of this trunk show where I would come out in size 18s, 20s. And that's not even double the standard size of a model, but like 3 or 4 times the standard size of a model. An 18, 20, that's a big girl. But I still represented it well. I still said, you know what, if they're gonna let me in, I'm gonna make sure that I'm impeccable, that I take care of myself and I look good. My skin needs to look good. I've learned that sometimes I feel yucky and not so pretty, but it's not really what's on the outside, but what I might be putting in my body the day before. If I have this, crazy sugar rush and I eat all this candy and Cokes and, just like flood with junk food, the next day I'm going to feel yucky. So I learned that the feeling that I got a yucky wasn't really what I look like on the outside. You could be gordita and still feel like, man, I'm a good looking girl. I can look good. I can feel good. But yeah, like, dude, I remember the first time I had my first runway show. It was, dude, I was like, come on, guys, you need to let me in. I'm just as pretty as all of them. Like, I'll walk right and I'll go out there and so they did it, they let me in, and it was my first runway show. And I remember going, okay, I spent the whole afternoon there. We were going to have it at this nightclub. The show ended up being, it was a little seedy, but it was still my first fashion show, and that was a big deal. And we're like at this nightclub, and they have us get there like at noon to do our makeup and our hair and stuff. And I'm waiting in line, and the show wasn't until like midnight. So we were there for like 12 hours waiting with our bags and stuff, and they do our makeup. And the makeup artist, one hit right there, the makeup artist was like doing my makeup, and she was doing everybody's makeup that day. And there's these tiny girls, age maybe 18, 19 years old. I'm a little old already, past 30, and I'm a bigger girl. And she goes, so, like, what do you eat? She just said it like that, all like random. And I just went, what you eat? And she was like, yeah, but you're bigger. Like, what do you eat? And I just didn't even answer. I was just like, just do my makeup, dude, whatever. But, throughout the day, the models are doing selfies together. And I'm kind of the oddball, right? I'm sitting there, and they were probably, who knows what they were thinking, but I felt like they were probably snickering and going, dude, what is she doing here? Like, seriously, what are they going to put on her? I mean, it was funny because a boutique who was putting this show together, she had all the latest like spring fashions for small sizes, but her rant was that plus sizes never sold. So when I went into her boutique to get fitted for my fashion for the fashion show, I noticed that the racks were way in the back. And I was like, well, why do you have the racks way in the back? And why are they hidden? Like, a plus size girl isn't going to come in here then, because she's going to think, well, you don't carry my size, right? But, I wore whatever she had in that rack that had been sitting there for like over a year, whatever. And I made it look spiffy. And I just remember the first time I walked down the runway, and there had already been a few girls before me who had walked the runway, and they would get, the applause and whatever. And then when I walked out, dude, I just heard, woo, like people just like cheering, like going crazy, like, going like just doing things. They were like real, like pumped up. And I remember just losing my shit. I was just like, I forgot all about poise. I forgot all about like, I started like going like this. I just couldn't like contain it. It was just so
Yeah.
exciting to see them like go, yeah,
Yes.
So then after that, my adrenaline was going. I went, and so, oh yeah. So then I go backstage, dude. And I'm like, I'm telling you, I was the oddball that day. Nobody asked to take a selfie with me. Nobody, everybody was like in their own, right?
Mhm.
And I go back there, and I had already walked down, and I go all by myself. I start cheering all by myself. I'm like, woo! And they were going, and I swear they were just like, they just went like this. Like that, dude. Like they were, and I know part of it was
Haters.
probably like haters, dude, because they saw the reaction.
Right, right, right.
But it's okay, because then later on you make relationships with them. They forget about how they felt about you at the beginning, and they get
Yeah.
over it, and then they go, dude, she's not so bad. She's just she's trying to get in there because it's important that other people can like relate and be like, if she can do it, I can do it too. And that's all it's ever been. If I've ever done any kind of modeling, or whether it be art, fashion, pageantry. My goal has always been, look, I'm going to do it so that girls who can relate to me somehow, whether it's, you know, my size, my skin color, my age, because dude, like I said, I'm 39 going on 40, and I've met 40-year-old girls, women, they won't even call themselves girls. I could still call myself a girl because I feel like I'm still young, you know, I'm still like full of energy. I still have it. Why not call myself a girl sometimes? But I've met women 39, 40 who are already like, I'm so like, I'm old, you know, I'm supposed to be like perceived as like, oh, you know, and it's like, it's what you want to feel, dude. Like if you
Yeah.
want to feel beautiful, if you want to feel glamorous, glamour is vanity, dude. Like there's nothing wrong with a little bit of that, you know. You walk out and you're shiny and you're like, you know what, I feel good, you know. So there's a lot of judgment on that, you know. We try to teach our girls, our kids, our boys that looks aren't important, and that brains are. And yes, that's very important that you have something to, you know, to fall back on. But I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to feel like this is the best version of the outside of me, you
Yeah.
know. I took care of this, and this is why I look this way. And sometimes, you know, it's like I dolled up today for the interview because I'm representing my pageant system. I'm representing myself as, you know, a fashion model and stuff. But on normal days, I'm in my ponytail, no makeup, and I'm loving it. You know, that's me too, you know?
Yeah.
So that's where we go into like who I am when I'm not, you know, modeling
Right.
and
Well, I want to take this conversation a little slight detour because you mentioned that they asked you during the pageant about the Rio Grande and the Rio Grande Valley, and you told them, you know, it was very hard for you to contain yourself for 3 minutes. So go ahead.
okay,
You can extend. I mean,
dude. I
don't talk
mean,
for 30 minutes again. But no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
who
No, but
are who are the people of the Rio Grande, dude?
tell tell
Honestly,
tell us.
man,
Well, tell the audience. Tell us because you know
they're
this.
so deep. They're so deep.
Take it
They're
away.
so deep and they're so giving. And there are a lot of people in the Rio Grande, like everything else. Like I said, there's pockets of bad everywhere you go. It's just like an apple. It could be a beautiful apple and you could buy it at HEB and you could think that you got the most perfect apple. And then you go home and you're like, dude, how did I miss that? It had that little bruise on the end that you can't eat and you have to cut it off, you know? And there's pockets of that everywhere, but there's also so much beauty. And there's so many individuals in our community and humanity who have big, beautiful freaking hearts, you know. And El Rio Grande, it runs up like, and don't quote me on this because I'm not great with numbers, but I've done the research enough to know that we run up like 1900 miles up to like Colorado. I mean, El Rio Grande people that share that in common, being part of El Rio Grande. They're not just from the tip of Texas where I'm from, but they run all the way up. And the beauty of it is that El Rio Grande, it separates the United States and Mexico. And so many people cross that bridge, that, you know, that El Rio Grande, that water, they cross it to come to the United States.
Yeah.
And they're not all from Mexico. They come from all over the world through there. You know, like right now, I've had the privilege of visiting and experiencing the life of people who are living in the tent cities along the Rio Grande in Mexico, who are seeking asylum. And those people are some impressive people, because you meet people there from all over the world who are waiting there to seek asylum, who are seeking asylum. And they're some of the strongest, most adventurous individuals you're ever going to meet in your whole life. So I had so much to say about that, and how if you live on this side of the Rio Grande, you can choose to be two things. You could choose to be giving and accommodating and loving and treat the people who cross it like your own, or you could treat them like outsiders and like shit. And you could say, we don't want you crossing through here, and we're gonna be bullies, and we're gonna be mean, and we're gonna say ugly things to you, and be just, we're not gonna accept you. So it's like we experience a lot of that living along the Rio Grande. And when I decided, and I told them, I said, when I decided to represent Rio Grande, I had to decide what side of those beliefs that I was going to stand by, and stand by it very, how do we say this eloquently, like without being a real like mess, and saying things that are going to offend others and hurt other people's feelings, and make others feel less than, because that's not the way to go. A queen doesn't do that. A queen makes everybody feel loved. And it's like I was trying to figure out, what's a queen supposed to be? She's not supposed to. So that that's what I had to decide. And so during my term as, Miss Rio Grande plus World, I decided to be part of that side. And it did become a little political. It did become a little, because I had to decide that I was going to represent, people that thought this way. But I represent the Rio Grande, and I represent the people of the world, and the people of the world are all accepted in
Yeah.
my world. So it was just, it you can't get that out in 3 minutes. I just,
Right.
you can't get it out in 10. It's just, you meet a lot of very giving people along the Rio Grande who are willing to take the shirt off their back for the people who are seeking asylum at this time, or even just crossing peacefully, and not trying to bother anybody, just trying to cross peacefully and go, we've got work up here in so and so town, and we got to take care of our family, and you decide, what side do you want to be on, what side do you want to believe is right, and be an advocate too.
Yeah. So, can you tell us a little bit? That can transitions pretty well. Can you tell us a little bit about going from being just Miss Plus World Rio Grande to Miss Plus World as a humanitarian ambassador? So, what does that mean to be a humanitarian ambassador of Miss Plus World?
Exactly. Hey, if you could tell me that, and everybody I know could tell me what they think that means, it would probably help me out, because I swear I wake up every morning and I'm like, hey, I'm still humanitarian ambassador. What am I supposed to be doing right now during the pandemic? Am I supposed to be out there doing food drives? What am I supposed to be doing? And sometimes I've had to step back and go, no, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. Right now, I'm supposed to be doing this because this is right. And it's like, what the heck is, and that's what I had to come home. And I've had this title since August. And we were going to go back in August to give the crown to a new humanitarian ambassador. But guess what? With all the travel restrictions that are going on, we have a new pageant sister coming in from Australia this year. South Africa's coming back again, Hawaii. There's a lot of travel restrictions where they're going to have to like clear a lot of things before they can travel. And they're thinking at least 6 months or so before it could like even, right? For a lot of these countries. So in order to make sure that all our pageant sisters get here from other parts of the world, we've extended it to February. which means that I get to keep my title August, September, October, November, December, January. I get to keep it for 7 more months. I thought I was already halfway through my title, and I was like, man, okay, every day counts, and you're like, man, it's going so fast, and it feels like just yesterday I got the title, and I only have 6 months left, and then they tell us this, and it's like a restart button. I'm like, I have a whole year left to like fill this position and do what I think I'm supposed to be doing as a humanitarian ambassador. And what the heck is that? What does that mean? It's like many will have like suggestions on what they think a humanitarian ambassador should be. I'm feeling along, during Christmas Eve. My grandparents have passed. I have one grandfather left. My grandparents are mostly all gone, 3 of them. And I had decided that I wanted to put, fuzzy socks together and take it to a local nursing home and spend some time. And I wanted to do it on that day because I felt like that's kind of the day where people get busy doing other stuff at home and they forget that there's family or loved ones in nursing homes who can't move, and then they're alone. And so I was like, I'm going to go take fuzzy socks and some sugar-free candies, and I'm just going to go and hang out with them, And Edward went along with me. And for those who don't know, I'm married to a guy who's a poet. And I said, hey, Edward, I said, would you like to join me? I said, and maybe, take some of your poetry books and like read some of your poetry here and there. And he was all gung-ho about it. And we went out there and did that. And I was just like, every time I have one of these experiences, I go, okay, so that's what it means to me to be a humanitarian ambassador. It's just like connecting to humanity that way, and just, taking those stories and experiences with me and maybe sharing them with others so that they could be aware that it's important that we start making more time for the people who have sometimes been forgotten. Not all, some are very lucky to have loved ones who go all the time to look for them, to talk to them, but there's a lot of them who are all by themselves, so
Yeah.
I'm just finding different ways, to connect that way to humanity. And there's so many like facets of it, the tent cities in Mexico, the nursing homes in my, hometown. It's like, there's so many, and there's still so many to discover. And as much as I have like 7 more months to my title till February, I feel like there's never, it's never going to be enough time to like,
Yeah.
so.
There's a lot of humanity out there. So I mean, it's a big job.
And picking to do to
The
be
right
the
thing,
right person, and not be the the Adolf Hitler mentality, like, oh, clean, it's just being that good, trying to see what feels good in your heart, and stand for that, and not be afraid to stand for that.
yeah. So I got a question. How did they like Edward's poems?
Oh man. Okay, so there were a couple of rooms that were interesting. We walked into a few rooms, and a lot of people are hard of hearing, so it's more of a, hey, you want some candy, and it takes a while to like even like them know what the heck you're doing in there. And some of them we just kind of, but there was one room that just, it stayed with me, and it's going to stay in my memory for a long time, because it was 2 ladies, and they were roommates, and one of them was blind. And we weren't sure if we were going to share poetry with them yet, but we spent some time with them. And after talking to them for a while, we knew that they were very well, very, had good hearing. And the blind lady was very sad that day because it was Christmas Eve, and she had visitors earlier that morning. and her son had come down from out of town, and he brought his two kids to visit, and they were from out of town, so she didn't see much of them. And he came in with his wife, and she said, she said it with tears. She said, I had visitors today and my son came to visit me. She said, but I wasn't able to see my grandkids because I'm blind now and I'm all alone here. And so we spent more time talking to her, and she just like, and Edward just sat there, and he sat right in the middle so that both her and her roommate could like share in the poetry listening. And Edward's got a pretty thunderous voice. Like, that guy doesn't need a microphone. He can, but he sat there in the middle, and he read them like lots of poetry, and and they held their chest, and they felt it, and they were just so connected with him that way. And it's funny, we had a different like relationship with every connection we had that day. He joked with a man who said he was 200 years old, and he wasn't in a hurry to read that man poetry, but he was in a hurry to know more about that man because he came home and wrote a piece about him. And he wanted to know where the man came from, and he wanted to know the most about him because he was so interesting to document that way. So it was interesting to spend the afternoon with Edward that way, and have him read to some and touch him that way, and then also bring back material and document who they were as people, because they were those type of stories to like to document, so it lives on, so the memory of that lives on. They're just, it's important to meet some people like that who touch you, and then you just go, this is a poem right here. This guy this guy's just so animated. He's 200 years old. He wore a fedora. He was just like gorgeous. I just, inside and out, he was just so, and his stories, were just so yeah, that was our experience that day.
Yeah, we have some comments from the comment section.
Yeah, I want to,
Yeah, what?
I wish I could see them. I don't see anything so far.
Yeah, no,
So
no, we have them, but that's
okay,
why I
okay,
prefer
that's good.
I prefer the other system.
Yeah,
Because with the Be Live, I can actually see all the questions.
yeah.
With Zoom, I only see a couple things, and it
So
only shows
you've
me.
got some comments for me, huh? Tell me
I
who's
do. So I'll tell you the ones I can see. I know there are more
cool.
because I saw more earlier, but these are the only ones I can see. So I got coming from Edward saying activism works in different ways. Kindness is one of the most powerful types.
Yep.
I got that you are the queen in the time of pandemia. That day of witness to the struggle, especially in the children's life, was life changing. For all those who do that on regular, they're heroes. And because he was 200 years old.
Hey, honestly, representing being the ambassador of humanitarians, it's also been like, okay, today, invite me to live a day in your life. Invite me to live a day in your life where you're humanitarian, where you care about so many people and humanity. It's like when I visited the tent villages, I don't just go over there by myself. I I I go with a humanitarian who's been doing the work and goes every day and tirelessly, dude. I'm like, how do they do it? I come home after one of those missions, and I'm like, my body feels like, oh my God, my everything hurts, and it's like, how do they get up every day, get dressed again, and go out there to serve humanity that way, to serve over 1,500 people who are living out of tents, who need their aid, who are just, and you know what? The people who live in the tent villages are so, how can I put this? they're people to live by. Give me that word. What is it? It's
Role
like
model?
they're role models, and they're also like, you just go, man, like if I could learn something from him, it's like his sense of adventure, his sense of fearlessness, her sense of fearlessness to do all this and live there for 6 months to a year in a tent with her child or his child, and they be able to survive and not get sick and stay there until they are either granted asylum or sent back to their country, and then have those ducks in a line. It's like you're not a stupid person. Let me tell you, you are not an uneducated, stupid human being if you are living in a tent and surviving like that.
Yeah.
Man, I have gone to visit them, and their kids' hairs are combed better than my kids' hairs are combed, and I have a roof over my head. You know what I mean? And it's not to say that I don't take care of my child any better, but we here have everything that we need, so we live very like relaxed, and they have to live on a schedule. They have to be on a regimen so they can make sure they get some food for their families that afternoon. They need to stand in line before the food's finished. They've got to keep themselves healthy and learn how to keep themselves clean on hardly any water, because just recently they were able to put a water system there for them to wash clothes and stuff. But the first last year, 2 years ago, man, they were still living off no running water off the bridge, keeping cleaner than like me, dude, that goes over there and volunteers for 12 hours and comes back smelling like I need a shower. It's like, how the heck do they do it?
Yeah.
to
No.
so yeah, it's
So we have a question from the comment section
cool.
as well.
Cool.
Thank you so much for your honesty and willingness to discuss your experiences. Liliana, I hope you are asked to speak to adolescent girls and young women. I think your words would really help to validate their experiences and give them encouragement. Do you go on speaking engagements for the youth? Fuerte
You
abrazo.
know, you know what I
Comes
do.
from Karina.
Mhm.
This question comes from Karina.
Okay. Oh, Karina asked me this.
Yeah.
Okay. Karina, hey, I admire you guys very much for your partnership, for your encouragement to each other. Um, I can relate. You are, Matt, a very passionate guy who's very busy right now. You're driven. You've probably haven't given Karina much of your time except the time that you guys share here. And you guys make a great partnership. You know what I mean? You understand each other, and I think she's awesome. So back to that question. Karina, I have visited schools. I haven't promoted it that much. I just kind of let those invitations and experience kind of flow as they come in. But just this year, last year, I got it on my timeline just like a few days ago. Last year, I visited an elementary school, and I got to visit with like 7 classrooms that day. And I was on a roll. And every time I tell my story, I was like, okay, I can learn how to tell it better to kids of that age so they could understand it, that go down to their level and talk their language, not talk like, but I had a lot of fun doing that. I took my crown, I put it on, I let them see it. I let them understand that they were all like worthy of wearing it and being that too, if that's what they wanted. I talked to the boys about honoring their mothers and their sisters and not being bullies when it came to like body issues, to always praise the women in their life closest to them, and to learn that they're all beautiful no matter their size. So it's about teaching your youth, and not just teaching the girls that they're beautiful, but teaching the males, the boys, the little boys, teaching them then that they're young, that beauty isn't just what they see in the magazines or in the movies, the pretty girl in the movie. No, it's all women. They could go back and see their sister, and she could be, you know, a bigger girl, or she could have whatever, you know, and honor her that way and say, you know what, sister, you're beautiful, dude. Like, you have the most beautiful hair, you know. She could be, you know, but you have the most whatever, and just embrace her beauty, her outer beauty too, because every girl needs to feel that and know that they all endure something that's beautiful, you know, and they should be proud of those those features, you know, that they've been given, that they were born with, you know. Yeah.
So you mentioned Edward throughout. You talk about how busy he has been with flower song books, but I also know, just knowing the both of you, that it's kind of a bit of a team effort. So can you talk a little bit about that?
It's a team effort, and it's just a freaking riot. You know, it's like, we have never been great planners of anything. We didn't plan anything in our lives. You know, we met on Latin Love chat room in on AOL chat room
What was
20
his
years
name?
ago.
What
K
was his screen name?
K with a K, like
Uh,
K,
yeah.
K Papi Soy. He, he was K Papi Soy, and I was Chula 545. So back then, dude, you couldn't even see pictures of people. It was
Yeah.
like no pictures, right?
Right.
And I had just moved into like an apartment with my best friend, and we're gonna go to college. To tell you, I was always a burra, man. I never liked school. I hated school. Didn't like to study. Didn't like school. Was just not my thing. I don't know. You know, it has a lot to do with a lot of things, and we could go on and on. But I had just moved into this apartment, and I was living there, and we were gonna start college together. I was 19 years old, and I move in, and I'm like sleeping all hours of the night, right? And I couldn't sleep, and it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. And I get on my not even a laptop, dude. It was a computer, like with a big old keyboard and everything. And I'm like, that dial up, right? And I'm like dialing up, and I get on, and I get into the Latin Love chat room, and there's Ke Papi Soy, and he's like, he was being silly in a chat room, and I don't know, he got my attention. He was being silly with some other guy from New York, and some other girl from New York, and we all just kind of like made friends. And then he started asking me, like, at the end of the night, like after 3 or 4 nights, we would get on all the time at like 4 o'clock in the morning to meet up and chat on this chat room. And we made our own chat room after a while, right? And we're all on there. And he was always kind of cute on me, right? So then he starts asking me if he could, like, he could call me on the telephone and like say good night, right? And I was like, oh, okay. So he started calling me after we would chat till like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning. And he'd just say good night in this like real like silky voice, right? And I was like, who is this guy, right?
That's
And he's
K
real
Papi
good with his
Soy.
words. He's real good with his words, right? He was just had me like, he would write me these poems, and I have some. And if you interview me again someday, I'll read some of these cheesy poems, because I printed them out. Blackmail, no. So he would write me these emails, dude, and I think it would come in through email. I don't know, but I don't know what got into me to print them all out to have, right? So I have them in this hat box. And he was just real good with his words, man. And we met in October on a chat room, okay? In October, dude.
Okay.
By November, okay? November, Thanksgiving weekend, he comes to the valley. He was living in Los Angeles. He comes to the valley, gets on an airplane, and comes to see me for Thanksgiving weekend.
Uh-huh.
And this was like a month and a half in, we're meeting online and stuff. And I mean, he had to go to a Kinko's to get his picture downloaded to share a picture of himself. And I had to do the same thing, put it on a disc. It was so much trouble, dude, to even see what we look like. There was very little sign of any like physical, you know. And so it was like, who is this guy, right? So then he gets off a plane, he comes, he stays with me in my apartment, and it's like this whirlwind weekend. We met up with my family on Thanksgiving. We cook like Thanksgiving dishes together in my kitchen, and like dance to like slow dance to like cheesy love songs and whatever, right? It was a whirlwind. I met him in November. He went back to LA right after Thanksgiving, and then he asks, my dad asked me, my dad actually liked him a whole lot. It was real weird because my dad didn't like any of the guys that I dated. And he says, "Hey, is that Edward coming for Christmas?" And I said, "I don't think he is. He just came for Thanksgiving. And it's it's a lot of money to fly over just to." And he says, "Tell him that if he can get the time off, I'll send him a plane ticket, my gift to him." And I was like, okay, sure. We're all, so he comes back for Christmas, and he comes back, dude. And I don't know how the heck, man, whirlwind. He comes for Christmas, spends Christmas with my family, and then convinces my parents. I was 19 years old, says, "Hey guys, can I take Lily with me to LA to spend New Year's Eve with her?" And I was like, "Mom, Dad, please let me go. Please let me go." Dude, nothing was planned. I spent Christmas Eve with him at the restaurant that he managed in Beverly Hills. He had to work that night. He didn't even have the day off. But I wanted to spend New Year's Eve with them. So I was like, I don't care. I'll spend it at your work, and I'll dress up anyways. And I remember sitting at the bar at El Torito in Beverly Hills, and I'm sitting there, dolled up, his girlfriend, and like we're all lovey-dovey. And I got to spend New Year's Eve with them. And then, dude, he just, I don't know. It was January. By February, March, the guy was already moving to the Valley to live. So, that timeline of meeting him in October and moving in with him by like February, March. I mean, it was a very quick thing, and nothing was really planned ever. We never really planned anything out real good. Didn't know exactly what we were gonna do with everything, but we've stayed together all these years. It's been interesting. It's been an interesting year, an interesting last couple of years recently with Flower Song Books. He still works a lot of hours with the restaurant business, but he's also has a full-time job now with Flower Song Books, where he's trying to get so many authors published this year that my head spinning. I'm going, how the heck are you going to do this, Edward? And I know how he's going to do it. And I'm just like, oh my God, God, please take care of us, because it's a whirlwind, it's a whirlwind. It's him going into work every day at 1 o'clock and coming home at 11 o'clock at night. And before that, getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning to work on publishing till 12:30. And I make him his food and I put it in front of him, and he eats lunch there. And I make him his coffee and he drinks coffee there. And the house is just like, he doesn't have time, for a lot of things. But it's just going, dude, as much as I would want him to just be all ours, there are so many beautiful things blooming right now that I know that I've got to like share him with these projects, and just make the house run with me, and just go, oh man, like sometimes I'll just be here at home and he's already gone to work or whatever. And he's been doing this for days, just getting up as early as he can, hitting the computer, takes a quick shower, leaves his clothes on the floor, dude just puts clothes on, takes off again, right? Comes home, I have food, something for him to eat. Sometimes he's just like, I just want to rest, gets up again every day, every day. And sometimes I'm just like, man, like I'm cussing him out inside. I'm going, I have to clean this kitty litter all the time by myself. Like, why can't he help, or I'm having to do these things and like, the things that like partners do, because it's like I go outside and my neighbors talk about their daily routines, and it's so different from ours. They're like, oh yes, we get up in the mornings and we garden till 10 o'clock and we do this and we comb our dogs and our cats, and they're and then at they always eat at 12 o'clock and they always like watch the show at 2 in the afternoon, and then they always go to bed at this time, and they do everything on a schedule because that's just the way their relationship is, right? But I'm going, dude, that's far from mine. Like this morning Edward woke up, I said, dude, I love you for everything that you're doing and I admire you for being so driven, but our house needs something. I go, our daughter, we've been living in this house for about 2 years now, and she's still using a thumbtack. She thumbtacks a blanket to her window to keep the light out at night, so it doesn't come in too early in the morning. And then during the day, she'll unthumbtack it and let the colcha fall off the window. And every day she's doing the same thing, right? There's like a million holes already in that. And I go, you know what? You really need it. Like, I know you have a lot of deadlines, dude, and I know, but can you put some blinds up on Bella's window like today? And I didn't actually think he was going to get up so early today to get started, but I was still sleeping. I heard like his toolbox fall from like the closet and him cuss it out and stuff. And I'm going, what is he doing, right? So I get up all slow. The guy had already gone to Lowe's, bought some blinds. He was doing all this stuff, right? And it was hilarious because Edward is not a fix-it guy whatsoever. Like he was there for like over an hour trying to put those blinds on. And I don't know what happened, but he gave up. Something didn't go right, that he took them back to Lowe's and returned them and said that we would go back sometime this week to pick like another pair. I don't know what happened, dude. I don't know exactly what happened, but he tried to put them on and he couldn't do it. But he really was trying. He wanted to complete with me. And yet I'm sure in his head, he's thinking, man, I have all these other things, deadlines. And I'm going, man, my girl needs some blinds on her window, and it's time. So that's our life, it's like, it's not perfect. It's not like glamorous, but I have my stories and I get to take that with me to the grave. It's beautiful. Like my life is, I feel very like colorful right now. A lot of people get to read these books and go, who is this guy or this lady? They must be magical people. I get to spend time with these people. We've had sleepovers at Carmen Tafoya's, sleepovers at Reyes Cardenas and his wife. We've had those intimate moments with authors in our circle that are truly magical, and there's a reason why they have so much to say and why putting it in books is so interesting, because they have beautiful stories. They're full of passion and life, and you meet them and it's interesting. Like I don't follow their literary works as much as I follow their own personal life, because I get to connect with them as people. When they're working with my husband, I get to make them their cafecito. I get to invite them over for brunch like I did you. It was cool having you go back to California after that and being able to connect with you and go, he sat on our couch and I got to make him a taco before he drove back out, and then flew back to California. Your family, we furthermost are it's not just business, but to be able to dish out like we have and to bloom and to make such beautiful works the way Flower Song has made in the last couple of years, man, that takes more than just professionalism and like skill. That takes like heart, it takes a lot of love. And it's been a privilege to connect with a lot of you all. Liliana Valenzuela, my tocaya, she's been one of, our latest authors at Sanat, Gris Munoz, Gris Munoz had a beautiful book just come out recently too that's doing great. And it took her a while to get it out, but we believed in her and we got to connect with her on a more personal level to understand why it took so long for her to get her piece out. She's manicured that piece as she would anything else in her life. She's very meticulous that way, but right now he's getting some transcripts, manuscript. He's putting it on computer from Alurista's works.
Wow.
And, man, Alurista 10 years ago, dude, I remember Alurista having a reading in Harlingen, Texas, about 10 down. And it was when Edward was just starting to dig into like poetry and really like dig the performance part of it and not just write, but like go out and like meet other poets. And he told me this guy was a big deal. I didn't know who Alurista was, but I just remember us going to a reading that was like in a small grassroots office. And it was all boarded up. The windows were all like the door with like very like private, And I remember us getting there a little late because, man, I'm always running late. And Edward was like, dude, they're not going to let us in anymore. And man, if they don't let us in, I'm going to be. And then we're knocking and they're looking at us like, nah, dude, the reading already started. And we're like going like this, right? So they finally let us in and it's standing room, dude. It's a little, not little, it's a big office, but everybody's just like packed in there.
Yeah.
And there's a little spot right in front of Alurista, a little spot. And man, I look around and I go, where am I going to sit? And I sat right in front of him on Indian style. I sat and I looked up at him like this. And, Alurista's a little man and I'm a 5'8" girl, but I sat there and I looked up at him and I heard him read. And I heard him talk about things and I heard him tell stories and I heard him just words coming out of his mouth. And I was just starstruck. I was just like, this man is like magic. You know what I mean? And years have gone by, 10 years later, all of a sudden, Edward isn't just like discovering poetry and like performing it out there, but now he's like publishing Alurista, dude. Like, what the heck? I'm in my kitchen making enchiladas and Edwards gets a call from Alurista, puts it on speaker, and I'm like, hi, how are you? I love you. How are you doing in California? And he's like, I'm doing good and this and that. He's just so, and I'm going, sometimes I experience these things and I'm going, is this a dream? Like, for real, dude? Like, how the heck does all this happen like within the last 10 years? There's stories to tell. It's endless. Man, I'm just so inspired by so many people that are just really cool individuals. And they're not just cool because they write books, because they're authors, but because the reason their books make it and the reason people want their books is because they're amazing storytellers and they're amazing company to be around. So like to be in the same room in your pajamas at Reyes Cardenas' house, having a sleepover, knowing you're going to get to wake up the next morning and have coffee with them again and hear more of the stories.
Yeah.
And you're staying at Carmen Tafoya's, you know, guest room, and she wakes up in the morning and she's making you breakfast, dude. Like, and she's talking about all these things that are just so like, I mean, it's magic. It's magical. I know I'm blessed to have the opportunity to live this life. And as much as I complain about not having, you know, my house up to date because there's no time for it, I know that this right now is where we belong and what
Yeah.
we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's been a wonderful, wonderful talk with you, Liliana. Is there any like
yes.
final words of advice you have for people who don't necessarily aren't necessarily feeling like they're like the most beautiful in the world, but they want to they want to get involved in like fashion or just feeling better about themselves? Is there any parting words you have?
I just want you to remind yourselves that all of you have something beautiful, something stunning about you. Uh, God made no mistakes when He made us in our very unique molds. We all have beautiful things to celebrate, beautiful features to celebrate. Don't be afraid. I know that the way it feels for me when I try something different is it's like standing on a diving board and I'm so scared looking down into the water. But the minute I hit that water and I'm in there and I'm swimming, all fear just like goes away. You know what I mean? And like doing anything in this world that's scary, like if you stand there and you look down and then you just close your eyes and you do it, all fear will go away once you do it. And it is just like the most liberating feeling. And honestly, all the experiences that I have ever had and all the stories that I share, they have all felt like that. You know, you just stand there and you jump. You just say, you know what, nothing's going to happen. No pasa nada. And you just do it. And once you do it, you go, man, I'm ready to do it again. I'm ready to get back up there. I'm beautiful. We're all beautiful, accentuate that, celebrate it. Don't be afraid of what people are going to say. Don't be afraid of people telling you you're vain because you think you have beautiful, you know, just celebrate yourself in the way you were made, and do it. And I could go on, but yes, just
So you
do it.
heard it here. You heard it here. Celebrate. Don't
Yes.
hate.
Don't hate, dude. And you're very handsome, Matt, because you look like my
Oh.
husband. You know that all week you've been doing your interviews, dude, and I have to make a double take and go, is that Edward? Oh no, it's Matt again with his resiste. Matt, you're a wonderful person inside and
Thank you.
out. Karina, I love you. Thank you for your partnership. You guys are magical. You guys are doing like some amazing things. And I'm inspired by both of you. Thank you on moving, man. It's inspiring to see you like tires. You're awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And all my best to you and Edward.
Yes. Thank you. Goodbye.